Hey, it's Todd Duncan. We have another special sales mastery vendor moment with Ernie Graham. He is the CEO and founder of Homebot. Homebot has been around since 2015. They took their first customers on in 2016, and they are changing the value proposition in the market today for both loan originators and agents. I've got Ernie with me. Ernie, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Todd. Thanks for having me.
You bet. It's good to see you. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you as you kind of see the industry, how is the consumer changing as we look at the industry right now with regards to like just home ownership in general? And then what specifics are you seeing in the marketplace?
Sure. So it's really interesting, I think, consumer. I always go back to what happened. I always go back to the Great Recession. So I always kind of break it into two different groups. You got all these folks who owned homes who got whacked by a Great Recession, a housing crisis. They lost all their wealth, and they were affected by that. And then you've got a millennial generation whose parents got whacked, and they don't want to get whacked. And so here's the thing, though. The point is that it has galvanized the consumer when it comes to home ownership to want to be empowered, to not just be sitting there and if the market goes up and the market goes down, whatever happens to them happens to them. They actually want to understand their home as an asset, and they want to be proactive and empowered to maximize that asset. And that's exciting times for all of us insofar as that there is desire and a thirst by these consumers to be empowered.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing is within that shift, we're seeing a move to total proactivity around kind of wealth and managing the asset, managing the equity, managing the debt, everything that we've been teaching for 25 years about how do you really connect long-term with the consumer, and what do you do every year to be in touch with them? What do you do, quarterly to give them? And now you've taken it all the way to let's help you understand the value of your home every single month, right? And it's kind of a cool idea. How are you, in your mind as the CEO and kind of the visionary force behind this, how are you helping today's loan originator in two areas? One, adding value to the consumer, whether they are a buyer that's in the pipeline potentially, or they're coming alongside agents and trying to, nurture and incubate those buyers, and or after closing, how does Homebot step in and create a super glue between the lender and the borrower post experience?
That's a great one.
There.
Yeah, that's a great one. So first of all, I think that it's, you see companies and you see these automated valuation model companies, like the Zillows that created this fascination, this I call it the vanity. They really play the vanity card. Everybody wants to feel rich, right? And our original hypothesis at Homebot was, would people want to be rich as much as they wanted to feel rich? Because vanity is a powerful thing. And so as we did our research, and then finally as we started to look at bringing our product to market, we always asked the consumer, who or where would you most want to receive a tool like Homebot, like this wealth management dashboard? And to our surprise, to my surprise, even though I had been an agent and a broker for many years, they didn't say Zillow, they didn't say Realtor.com or Truly. They said the lender and the agent. When it comes to this idea of your home as an asset and building wealth, that it's personal, and they want a personal relationship. So for us, it was a really easy decision to make to create the Homebot platform to be delivered and to be engaged with by the consumer only in the context of a lender and an agent. And here's where there's some really interesting nuance there too. So as you mentioned before, and this is for us has been really a fun part of Homebot, is that in a lot of ways, we're not actually creating anything new.
Right.
And I like to, we pride ourselves on being great listeners. We listen to the top producers who have been doing this and preaching this for years and years and years and building relationships this way. But in a lot of ways, their ability to do that was premised on being able to get FaceTime. Well, everybody's got their head on a phone now, right? How do you get time, quality time, FaceTime, belly-to-belly time with folks? And that's really where, for Homebot, what we're doing is we're effectively taking the database of hundreds or thousands. And I always joke, the more successful you are, you're almost a victim of your own success, because how in the world are you going to find those 2 or 5 needles in a haystack to talk to today? And that's what Homebot's doing. Homebot is empowering them. And when one of those past clients or prospects is in the mood to be advised, they can raise their hand. And those are the folks that the LOs need to be engaged with. And for us, this is what positions them as a trusted advisor, because they can have, there's more humanity there. They can actually discover who in their database is ready to be engaged with today. And we think that's an incredibly powerful thing, to just let the LO have that face time and develop trust. And everything I just said, real estate agents are under incredible duress, and they need to be developing relationships too. And as it turns out, all of this subject matter around building wealth and home finance, they happen to have a friend in the business called their LO partner. So that's where obviously Homebot is helping the agent partner with the LO as well to do those exact same things.
Yeah. You know, we've been a big believer for as long as we've had the company that the guys and gals that offer the greatest advice and create the most consistent stream of relevant value are going to be the guys and gals that win the day. And so when you mentioned the word humanity and you mentioned the word, you know, client retention, and then you look at Homebot being a technology company, the humanity and the technology is what actually envelops the relationship to be continuous. And I think a lot of people are really missing out on how big that market is for the local lender, for the local real estate agent. We're seeing a lot of changes in agents getting leapfrogged by technology. You've got those that have strong brands that'll remain. You've got the agents that don't have strong brands that consumers are just blowing past. You look at LOs that have maybe hundreds, if not thousands of borrowers that they have done loans for. And there is this juxtaposition of, I know I should be in touch with them. I don't have really, besides a phone call and a bunch of, you know, marketing that's irrelevant, that gets ditched anyway. I don't really have anything that adds real value. And so I see this as kind of a troika, right? It's the LO adding value to the consumer. It's the LO using it as a unique value proposition for the realtor. It's the realtor using it in their lead funnel. It's creating that kind of massive value that blends humanity and technology. How are you seeing that play out specifically, I think, in the LO and agent relationship? And how do you, as a technology guy who just said humanity is important, how do you see those relationships, LO and agent, looking in the next, 12 to 24 months?
Great question. So first of all, trust happens to be a pretty big deal.
Amen.
There's a guy who wrote this book called The Trust Economy, and it's an amazing read. I'd recommend everybody read this. I think as an LO, as an agent, you got to ask yourself, hey, when Amazon and all these other big guys get in, and the call centers, what is your unique, how are you going to be in business? What can you offer? And it turns out we humans, we value trust. It's a big part of our culture, and it's a big part of our commercial existence now. When Facebook violates trust by selling data, their stock price goes down. This is a big deal. So first of all, I feel like that is almost like the real estate. The death of the real estate agent has been greatly exaggerated for 10 years because it's the biggest purchase for folks. And I believe the same with lenders as well, is that the humanity, the trust that comes along with that humanity is huge. But here's where it gets tricky, I think. Technology, there's a couple of different types of technology. Of course, you got some technology that is, cozies up alongside of the human with the diabolical ambition of disintermediating that human, right?
Right.
And some of those guys are clear about it, and some of them aren't that clear about it. And then you've got technology like Homebot, where our mission is to lift that loan officer up and help them be more human. The thing that I think that has to be top of mind for anyone using technology in this business is, I think that there is this inclination to stand behind the technology, to let it do, I'm going to let the technology do all the communications. I'm going to let the technology deliver all the intelligence. I'm going to let the technology in a little two-dimensional picture or brand or a video and intimate my brand and my own humanity. I'm gonna let the technology do that. And I think that's really playing into the hands of disintermediation. And I think that it's ultimately not the right, it's not the highest and best use of us humans to be simply programming these CRM systems or any systems for that matter to do the work for us. Now, with Homebot, we have a really strong thesis around, hey, it's almost like a little virtual assistant in 1,000 different living rooms all the time, because you never know when that person's going to be ready to be advised. But when they do percolate, that's where the LO has got to jump on that and really be prepared to engage live in person. So, like I said, I believe the humanity, the trust aspect of this is huge, and we've built our platform to support that.
Yeah, well, being a guy that named his company High Trust and has written a best-selling book on trust, and actually, it's interesting, Ernie, as we study trust in the 28 domesticized countries in the world, it'll blow your mind. With the exception of a couple of pockets in South America, the world values humanity more than they value technology in high-priced transactions. So anytime that you're buying something that might be the biggest thing you've ever bought, anytime you're borrowing more money than you've ever bought, there is a demonstrated just data-rich, defined and supported truth that people want somebody by their side. And I think you bring up a good point that you can't hide behind technology and rely on the technology to be the voice in a high-priced transaction. You just can't, because in a high-priced transaction, this is the thing that technology can never actually replace. It can't replace connection. It can't replace deep advice. It can't replace rich human-to-human value. We did a Facebook post, kind of a poll about 4 weeks ago, and asked a simple question. What is the value of having face-to-face conversations in a technology-rich world? And it was amazing to see, how personal those one-on-one connections were, and how much you could hear the heart and you could see the emotion. And so my advocacy is there's always a human being involved. And when there's more than one human being involved, which is real estate and lending, trust has to be at the very top. Now, you got to trust the technology, which is why you guys have created such a great product, and the technology is trustworthy, but you got to trust the human that uses the technology. So we have this kind of win-win going on, and in a certain kind of way, it's old school, but it's really disruptive because we're in the space of being disrupted right now. And I don't think anybody can ever discount the power of the relationship, to your point, humanity.
I completely agree. I take it even another step further too, is that, especially when you involve technology and there's this discussion around data. Okay, so Homebot gathers all this data and all these different sources for that homeowner. And as you know, that whether it's Facebook and social and all the data that can be known about the consumer, if you have trust with that consumer and your biometrics are connected with that consumer, you're going to learn about them because there's trust. There is gray data that to be absorbed and be communicated that the technology can't get to because it doesn't have the trusted relationship. And when I think about it that way, I go, there's data that can't be procured by the tech. It can only be procured through the relationship. And if you have those data points, of course, then the human can provide better solutions that are more connected with the needs and the desires and all that other stuff. So, I was looking to say, look, I don't see how technology gets to that layer of insight and gray data, if you will. Gray matter, gray data.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So as we wrap this up, we're super excited that Homebot's going to be at Sales Mastery, and we know that you guys are kind of leading the real force around disruption and market value and things like that. What are you looking at vision-wise next, 2, 3, 4 years? What's the next disruption coming that, in your mind, as a CEO of a tech company specializing in real estate and lending, you see that we need to start paying attention to?
Well, I think that equity release, liquidity management, as the consumer starts to connect more with their equity versus just their top line home value. And as we all know, that equity for most Americans is their retirement plan, right?
Right.
So as they get more connected into that equity piece, the natural, next step is, well, how do you release that equity? How do you access that equity? And, we've been in an industry where, there's two ways to release that equity historically. They're both relatively high friction. You either use debt, cash out refi, home equity line of credit, or you sell it. That's kind of a high friction event. And so if you look at the fintech world right now, of course, you have a tremendous eruption of all of these technologies to help homeowners access their equity. No different than selling all your Apple stock, right? Waking up one morning and doing whatever you want to do with that, whether it's sell, lease back. You see iBuying craze, the open doors, the Zillow offers to make that sale instant. So accessing that equity, I think, is really important for the consumer and for the economy to have more the ability to move that equity into other forms is really important. Now, what does that mean? Optionality. There's never been more optionality for the consumer, and it is daunting. And I think we're going to an age where all of these companies are trying to disrupt by taking their share of that liquidity management. And for the homeowner, oh my gosh, what do you mean? Do I do an instant sell? Do I use debt? It begs for a trusted advisor to help them navigate those things. So our core thesis is around and really supports that lender and that agent to be the very first stop in that journey. So they're not defensively saying, don't use these products. Instead, they're on the offense, which says, you got a question about iBuying? Here's a button that you can push, that you're because I always say this to agents and lenders, if you're number two to the dance, you're not getting on the dance floor. You're going to be sitting on the sidelines. And so we actually just launched some functionality that has an instant offer button on it. And all it does is support that lender or that real estate agent's strategy. The point is that it does, if you have a strategy or a program without an engagement piece, you're second to the dance. Right. You don't have engagement, you don't ever get a chance to wave that brochure around or talk about what you can offer. And that's where we really want to connect to these trends that keep the lender and these agents positioned as a trusted advisor. Yeah.
Super, super exciting stuff, Ernie. Thank you for your time. We're sending this message out to the high trust ecosystems, especially those guys and gals that'll be attending Sales Mastery. Homebot will be there. You can see the relevancy of how the future is unfolding before our eyes. And obviously, we're going to have a good time in San Diego in 4 weeks. Thank you, Ernie, for your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you in San Diego.